You ready? Good. You're good? All righty. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the April 28th. I got it right this time, Charlene. 2025 Portsmouth Town Council meeting. First, we'll go over our safety evacuation plan. If there is an emergency, please exit out one of the emergency exits, either the door you came through, door back behind your left, or the door behind Mr. Reese, and we'll all go across the street to the school department building and wait for further instructions from our first responders. If you would all now please join me. I know it's you. I can hear it over there. If you could all please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence for our men and women in harm's way. Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. All right. Madam Clerk, would you please do the roll call? You didn't know you were about to do that, did you? Oh. We have a new clerk this evening. Town Clerk Jen West is recovering from some surgery, so Miss Mandy is helping us out. You hit the right button and you're good.
Okay.
And then bring it down close and
All right.
start with Mr. Gleason and then work alphabetically.
Okay. Mr. Gleason,
Here.
hang on. Ms. Blank.
Here.
And
Ms. McDowell,
Ms. McDowell. Here.
Mr. Piero.
Mr. Piero.
Here.
Ms. Patton. Here. Mr. Reese. Mr. Hamilton.
Here. Thank you. All right, this evening we have a changing of the guard at our town solicitor department. We have Mr. Gavin, who is going to be here for our next 2 weeks, who's served the council for numerous years. We have a new partnership with Mr. Gio Ciccione, who's going to be our main solicitor. And we also have his partner, Mr. Larissa, who is going to be subbing in when needed and also helping out in any other matters that we may need them. So I'd like to welcome them both tonight. Mr. Ciccione is here. Mr. Larissa is sitting in the front row here. So welcome aboard, both of you.
Thank you. Good move.
First up, we have a proclamation of appreciation on the recognition of the retirement of Mr. Brian Woodhead. Knowing Mr. Woodhead, he probably doesn't want to get up in front of the room and receive this proclamation, but I'm going to make him walk over and get it with me. Right. We're on. The Town of Portsmouth proclamation of congratulations. The Town Council, on behalf of the citizens of the Town of Portsmouth, wishes to extend our thanks and appreciation to Brian Woodhead on the occasion of his retirement following his many years of dedicated public service at Portsmouth Town Hall. Well, DPW. I don't want to say it's Town Hall. Well, he did a lot of work here too. For his service from March 16th, 1998 through April 30th, 2025, the Town Council recognizes your many accomplishments and congratulates you and thanks you for your untiring efforts on behalf of our community. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the Town Council of the Town of Portsmouth, not only for itself, but on behalf of the citizens of this community, salute Brian Woodhead on the occasion of his retirement from public service and order this proclamation presented on the 28th day of April 2025. In recognition whereof, I, as President of the Portsmouth Town Council, hereby set my hand and cause the seal of the Town of Portsmouth, Rhode Island, to hereby be affixed on April 28th, 2025. I think I speak for everybody in this town. Brian has been a tireless employee. A lot of things you see done in this town, you may not know that it's Brian, where it's, a phone call at 1 o'clock in the morning because the tree's down. He goes and pulls it off the road, or he has to schedule somebody to go out and do it. Brian has always been there. He's done a great job building our road program, creating much better roads, despite what some people might say. Our roads are much better than they were before Brian started. So I want to thank Brian personally for all the hard work, except for the few times that he tore up my lawn plowing, but we won't talk about that. And I wish you the best of luck in all your future endeavors. Thank you, Brian.
I need these. I'm going to try to keep it short because I know we got a lot on the agenda right now. I just want to thank you, Keith. I want to thank the town council. I want to thank the previous town councils. I also want to thank Rich Rayner, the town administrator, for his leadership and his confidence in me to run in the department. And, you know, we have a very talented, dedicated staff here at Town Hall in Portsmouth, and we work very closely with them. So I just want to thank everybody, all the department heads and their staff. I don't want to leave anyone out, so I'm just going to say all the department heads and their staff. I want to thank Paul Rodrigues and our DPW staff. I know it can be a little overboard in the wintertime with snow, but they do put up with me. And lastly, I just want to thank my wife Elizabeth and my son Christopher for putting up with the long hours that I put in. And once again, thank you very much. I wish everyone the best.
Hey, Brian, one last thing before you leave. Can you get the AC working, please? All right. Next up, we have our consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve as presented?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Next, we'll be sitting as the Board of License Commissioners. We have a few new licenses to take care of. First, we have 2 new peddlers licensed mobile food establishments for SWLLC doing business as Newport Sushi, and also Paisano Hospitality doing business as Bottle Rocket Food Truck.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Next, we have a peddler's license annual for Newport Fine Linens LLC at 132 Spring Street, Newport.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Next, we have a entertainment license for the Portsmouth Youth Soccer Association for their annual tournament on Father's Day weekend, June 14th and 15th.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Motion to adjourn as the Board of License Commissioners.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Next up, we have our town administrator's report. Mr. Rayner.
Good evening, Mr. President, Town Council, ladies and gentlemen. We received news that Rhode Island Department of Transportation is preparing to begin the West Main Road and Sprague Street paving improvements soon. RIDOT plans to go out to bid this summer and may begin construction as early as this fall. A proposed plan regarding traffic management during construction will be presented for review by the council at the May 12th council meeting. With regard to the CDBG grant application for the Ade Bethune House Senior Center, we've also received news that an announcement regarding the remaining CDBG funding for the Ade Bethune House is forthcoming. The CDBG grant funding is what covers the cost for the town-owned section of the building to be used by the Portsmouth Senior Center. Some questions were raised at the last council meeting about the letter that the town received from the executive director of the Rhode Island Bridge and Turnpike Authority. The letter addressed Mount Hope Bridge maintenance and rehabilitation. I've invited Director Silveria to update the council at a future meeting, and she has agreed. We're working to add this to one of the council meetings in May. The Naval War College held a ribbon cutting and grand reopening ceremony for the historic Mahan Hall last Wednesday. Mahan Hall is named after Rear Admiral Alfred Thayer Mahan, and it was opened in 1904 and encompasses the historic rotunda and reading rooms. Rhode Island officials were invited, and I was able to represent Portsmouth at the event. And staying on the Navy theme, the Naval Station Commanding Officer Captain Renke is reinitiating the Navy community leadership meetings, which used to be held aboard the Naval Station. These meetings will start again on May 8th, and the council should have received an invitation to participate. We will begin accepting nominations for the annual Portsmouth Award next week. This award is an annual recognition for an individual, a local business, or an organization that exemplifies the best characteristics of and for Portsmouth by consistently demonstrating excellence in professional and community leadership, which directly benefits our town. Details will be posted on the town website this week, and a pending release and a press release is pending. Nominations will be accepted through June 30th. With regard to the Old Mill Lane liquid natural gas injection site, the Rhode Island Energy Winter Operations Crew has had all the LNG equipment and ancillary equipment demobilized as of April 8th. The project to reposition our seasonal portable LNG equipment further away from the road began last week. The construction will primarily consist of vegetation clearing, grading, and the installation of permeable surface pavers. Work will take place on weekdays between 7 and 5 and is expected to be completed by November. And lastly, sadly, retiree Larry Cook from the Portsmouth Fire Department passed away February 18th. Larry provided almost 33 years of service to the town of Portsmouth, and he started his career in October of 1974 and retired as a captain in August of 2009. His commitment to service extended beyond duty as a firefighter, as he was also a sergeant in the United States Air Force during the Vietnam War. We extend our deepest sympathy to his wife and family. And that concludes my report, Mr. President.
That was April 18th, right?
April 18th.
Okay. I heard February, but maybe I'm hearing things today. Okay. Just quickly on the West Main Road and Sprague Street, does that include them widening the box at Macquarie, or is that for a future date?
That project will also include the intersection of Macquarie on East Main Road. It'll also widen the box at at Union. I anticipate that there's going to be some discussion about the sidewalk on Sprague Street, because we're trying to work with DOT to ensure that the crosswalk from Education Lane to Sprague Street is properly signalized and in the right spot for the kids leaving high school.
Thank you. Mr. Kessin, you had a question?
Paul Kessin, 3241 East Main Road. I was hoping to get to Brian before he left. But you did you announced his retirement tonight, and congratulations, Brian. When Rhode Island DOT redid East Main Road from Bank Newport to 24, that service that comes down Sprague Street still isn't large enough, and water bubbles out of the manhole in front of Cumberland Farms almost a foot, about 6 times in the last year. That intersection had a problem. The Sprague Street drainage was 6 inches higher than the East Main Road to receive it. There was a broken pipe in the middle. I don't know whether that's broken again, but it's not transferring the water from Sprague Street to East Main Road to
Seconic River, basically.
it's kind of river, but it's in front of my house, and it goes the other way to Child Street. So I don't know whether there's a way to get them to scope that. I don't think they're ever going to want to open that road up,
Sure can.
but it boils up about a foot. So there's a head pressure coming down Sprague Street.
Sure.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Woodhead, can you, or Paul, can you take that on to contact the Portsmouth Division? Thank you. Any questions from the council for Mr. Rayner? All right. Up first, we have our old business, our monthly financial report. Ms. Marston?
Good evening, Mr. President and Honorable Council. As of the end of March, the town was 9 months or 75% through fiscal year 2025. Year-to-date general fund revenues were at 79% of the total budget. Primary sources there were third quarter tax receipts, investment income, revenue share from the Melville Campground, and commission revenue from Russell Moran's. Year-to-date general fund expenditures were at 73.9% of the total budget. Drivers there were quarterly pension contributions, benefits, and debt service payments. There was a transfer of $808,000 from the general fund to the school bond fund to replenish interest payments made from this fund during the fiscal year, which was previously approved in the FY25 budget from the general fund. Currently, performance continues to trend positively, and weekly monitoring continues to be implemented. Thank you.
Any questions on the update? Have a motion to receive and place on file?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Next up, new business. We have an update from the dog park, which got bigger last year. Evening, Ms. Reagan. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. And I brought my reason for the dog park.
Yep. Can you just pull the mic down a little bit?
Yeah, I'm not
Thank you.
exactly tall. And can I ask with the PowerPoint, can I just look at you when I want the? Okay, thank you. First of all, thank you so much to all of the council members for inviting us to come here. I was reminded just a few moments ago that because I can talk about the dog park for a very long time, I need to stick to my 10 minutes that I promised you. I would like to introduce about half the committee is here right now, which is wonderful. The founder of the original committee, Bunny Miller. Our secretary, Lori Anderson. Andrea Rounds, who has been our grant writer, and thank goodness she was. Vice Chair Joyce. Can you put your hand up? Thank you. And our treasurer, Tracy. Which is really nice, but everyone was going to wear their shirt, and I think only a couple of us did. Anyway. Come here and sit, please. No, he's done this before. Down. Down. Thank you. I would also, while I'm thanking people, I would like to thank DPW because they have been incredibly helpful to us, either doing things for us or advising us on how to do things, which we don't necessarily always know how to do. For those of you who don't know, I'd like to give you a short history of the park. It was way back in 2013, I believe, when Bunny first proposed the idea of a dog park after a tragedy in her family with her dog. So we needed a safe place for the dogs to be. So in 2017, we opened the original dog park. It soon became, and the goats came in and cleaned up the stuff, and it was an incredibly difficult process, but one that we are so grateful for. But it quickly became clear that we might need to do more because even though, I mean, within weeks, I can remember the first meeting we had in here with Brian and Rich, and we were in the room, and I remember Rich said, this has become just a little bit more than I was expecting. And honestly, we really thought that we had about 80 people coming a day. So we decided that we needed to do some research. So I'm not sure. Oh, good. You can go to the second one. This was the purpose of we wanted to find common ground, which we did. Everybody who goes there loves
Jane,
dogs.
can you just stay down?
I'm so sorry. I'm doing it again.
No, it's okay.
I have to use my,
It's so the people at home can hear you.
yes, I'm sorry. Okay. We love and care about our dogs. I mean, we really do. It's a safe, clean, and welcoming place. And we have been told that it is very welcoming in comparison to other dog parks. And we have a culture of kindness, respect, and responsibility. I'd love to say that that happens 100% of the time, but we work on it very hard. So we started to look, thank you very much. We started to look into expansion. And so we first got a grant, thank you, Andrea, from Van Buren for planning. And we went to Neil Hingarani at Narragansett Engineering because he designed the original park. And he gave us a pretty good idea. Can you go to the next one? We also spent some money on a data report to see what the purpose, was there a reason for us to do it? And Salve Regina volunteered to be the data analysis people. And we got an absolutely incredible young man who was a math major, now works in Connecticut for Electric Boat, I believe. And he did an incredible job writing a program. We put in a couple of trail counters so that we could find out how many people were coming to the park. And we actually found out that we have an average attendance of 150 people a day, and that on weekends, it went as high as 300. That was pretty big. So we said, yes, we do need to expand. And we didn't want just another open space. There were people who wanted to take their dogs down to the Melville Trails. But it's nice to have your dog off leash. So we said it would be great if we had a trail that was fenced in so you could let them off leash and they could enjoy themselves, as could we. I love it. We also touched base with University of Rhode Island, their landscape design department, Dr. Sheridan, who unfortunately at the very end of our project died, which was really terrible. But he took one of his classes and brought them over to the park, and it was still not much of a trail to see. So they went tramping around in the woods and looked for some ideas using using Narragansett Engineering Map as to how we might landscape and utilize the space that we have. That was their fall project. And Andrea and I had the opportunity to go over there twice to listen to their class, where they each had huge posters and they gave us some ideas. Some of them were way, way out of our range, but we took little bits from, and we learned a great deal from that. So that was really wonderful. Yeah. So in doing this, it was going to double the size of the dog park, fence the perimeter, create a half a mile's worth of trails. Neil arranged it so that there would be loops. So if you go from one end to the other, it's half a mile. If you turn around and go back, it's a mile hike. We installed benches. We put a certain number of benches in to begin with. And then those of us who are a little bit older decided we needed some more benches. So we put them in there too, so there'd be a place to sit. We increased space for parking, and we kept the park open during construction. Now, I should say that the first time we put out requests for proposals, they came back. It was right after COVID, and they came back at twice the amount we were expecting. So we had to put a halt to the whole thing, get together again, and we decided that we were going specifically for fencing in the area and getting the path done. And then we would go from there, earn some money, write more things. Yes, okay, so we have the trees. We put in quite a few trees thanks to people like Aquidneck Land Trust. They're incredible. A lot of red maples, so that in the fall they come out nice colors. We also put in what we originally talked about to be, what were we going to call it? A memorial garden, but we decided against that because people had too many ideas about what they wanted to do about a memorial. So we changed it. It's now our secret garden. You will see Lori sitting there with her dog in the secret garden. And the Marines that I'll tell you about in a moment, they found all those rocks in the woods and created a rock garden. And this coming weekend, when they come again to help us, we have some dog statues that are going to go onto the rocks. And it's a place in the middle of the park where people can sit. There are 4 benches there. They can sit, they can talk dogs. The dogs walk around us in circles. And believe me, they do. It's a very popular place. All right, so we also have a shed We bought the shed and DPW very kindly built it for us. And we have a lot of people who use the park. You can see Dave right up there with his wheelbarrow, and we do a lot of that. We get a lot of help from everybody to get things going. July 6th, last summer, we opened, and it was pretty exciting. Unfortunately, it was raining, but what the heck? Rain makes no difference to the dogs. All right. Now the things that, well, those are pictures of people on the trail. And I will have to tell you that my dog prefers the trail. He went 6 years going in the field, but now he only wants to go on the trail. It's a great place, especially in the summer when it's very shaded. You can sit back there on a bench and it's a really lovely place to be. Anyway, okay. There were things that we could not include because they were just too prohibitive, one of which was lighting. And there were a lot of requests for people who wanted lights in the winter because they'd have to get out of work sometimes at 3:30, bring their dogs down to run them around and then go back to work. That's somewhat of a challenge. So with the help of DPW's poles, and we ordered solar lights, and we ordered 4 of them to begin with to check and see how well they're going to work. Now that we know that they work, we're going to expand that this fall, because by winter time next year, we'd like to have more lighting. However, the lighting is on a timer, so it goes off at 9 o'clock. So we are not, and we will never put, or I won't put lighting on the trail. We don't want people back there. That really, the lighting is for the very front of the park, just so that the dogs have a place to go. We are also working on landscaping. And one of the ways we do that is with the help. And we're going to put in some agility equipment as well at the front of the park for the dogs that really like to run through tunnels and go around things. It'll just be a fun, it will not be an Olympic park. So the people who have, the dog trainers who have asked if they can, book time with their trainees on our agility course, the answer is no, because it isn't going to be a full agility course. It's going to be some equipment. And we are also hoping to do that by this fall. I should tell you, although the numbers that Kayla was talking about are much bigger than ours, we actually have a bank account right now with money that we have raised of $23,000, which for us, that's big money. It wasn't much compared to what you were talking, but we now can afford to get more solar lights. We can get a couple of pieces, a couple, it's really not cool. A couple of pieces of agility equipment, and we can keep adding to that as the time goes on. And then, of course, in all of this, we are working on landscaping. We have so many really incredible community partners. The slide before is a picture. We take one every year. We have a group of Marines that come to us from the Naval Justice School on base. It started about, 5 years ago, and they come twice a year. And if I don't call them, they call me. So, for example, this coming Saturday, we will have our spring cleaning. And they come in with about 20 to 30 Marines, and they're all very young and very strong, which allows us to get the help we need to do things that we otherwise could never do. We also have a bunch of people who come with their dogs on a daily basis. Am I running out of time? Okay, sorry. So I'm just going to say, for example, Charlie, Brian, Jody, they know who they are, and they come in, and when they bring their dog, they take the dirt and they fill holes and they put down mulch where we need it, and they just do it. They don't ask ahead of time. I would also say a major thank you. Clements Market, every year, we are a recipient of part of their golf tournament. Newport Polo does every year, does the, we go for the charity event, and Dominus Agway give us a portion of their Santa pictures, very popular. And they also give us a lot of advice, Mark does, for how to deal with the grass that we don't have in some places. Also, Ragged Island Brewery we've had 3 trivia nights there to earn money, which has been incredibly successful, and they are really an amazing partner. We also have a small donation box on site that was built and provided by Steel Giraffe, another local business. And then our donors, the bigger donors, the people who put together, well, Aquidneck Land Trust, we have a grant into them even as we speak. And the biggest donors to us are the Van Buren Charitable Foundation. They have been incredibly generous, and they pretty much funded the first part of the park, and they pretty much funded the second half too. They've just been amazing. And I can honestly tell you, I was down there today and I heard people talking and saying, one guy was from Brooklyn. He's up for visiting his parents, and he heard about it and came down. We get people from all over the place. I think that the largest majority is from Portsmouth, but I personally live in Middletown, so I know that people really adore it. I love it. We all love it, and we hope that you will, that you do too. Very quickly, I'm going to embarrass Brian because he has been really helpful to us, and we don't want him to leave without a memento from the park. So, Brian, here's your hat. Not that I've ever seen you wear them, but we wanted to make sure that you would leave with that. DPW is wonderful. Does anybody have any questions? Any one of us would be happy to answer. And Charlene, who's our representative.
I just wanted to say thank you for everything that you do. I didn't realize, as much as you do, and until I started going to the meetings and getting more involved. Also, this weekend you need help.
Well, look, if anybody wants to come, we go from 8 to 12.
Okay.
The Marines come at 8. The nice thing about that is that we get to do the softer, the older people get to do the softer job. Well, I'm being honest. And then they come in, like if we've raked up a lot of rocks, they come in and they pick them all up for us and take them where we ask them to. So yes, if anybody wants to come down, it would be fabulous. But it's not a requirement.
But it's 8 to 12 on
It's 8 to
Saturday.
12.
Okay.
And at the end, we serve pizza and snacks and water during the morning. And honestly, we actually changed it this spring because the Marines could not come last weekend. So we changed it to this coming weekend because we really can't do it without their. And they want the dogs there because they are now on base and they miss home and they miss the dogs. And we always do a ceremony at the end. I give them letters for community service, which is all they ask for. So you're welcome.
Thank you, Jane.
If anybody,
Thank you very much.
yeah, I gave each of you a paper. On the back is our website and also our Facebook page, so you can find out what's going on. And any one of you could always call and ask, because we are more than happy to share.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Jane. Thank you very much. All right, next up, we have Mr. Pites and Mr. Gleason, a quick discussion on the nonpartisan elections from a person who's works on a base.
Sure. As I promised you, I'll be brief with my comments tonight. Good evening. For the record, my name is Theodore Peace, residing at 85 Glen Road. I want to thank Vice President Cleveland for allowing me the opportunity to expand further on my written correspondence. And secondly, I would like to acknowledge Councilor McDowell for her fulfilled campaign promise regarding nonpartisan elections. Additionally, I would like to recognize our registered voters, Jacqueline Schultz, for her excellent deep dive analysis of the previous election during the last meeting. Independently, I conducted a broad analysis of the last 8 biennial elections here in Newport County with the thought that collecting nearly 50 data points would be sufficient to establish a few trends for council elections here in Newport County. 3 of the 6 municipalities use nonpartisan election, with Middletown shifting from partisan to nonpartisan town council races, starting with the 2016 ballot. Nonpartisan Middletown had the highest floor of candidates, with all elections in the past 8 cycles having at least 9 candidates for 7 seats. Nonpartisan Tiverton had the highest number on average of candidates at 13.38 candidates for 7 seats, averaging 1 additional candidate every other election over second place Portsmouth. A slate of unopposed candidates occurred in 5 of the 48 elections, with 4 of the 5 instances occurring in partisan elections in the smaller communities of Little Compton and Jamestown, which kind of makes sense. And 3 of those instances was a single party slate. What I really suspect the folks up on the dais really want to know is, does being top listed on the ballot guarantee electoral success here in Portsmouth? You should indeed be counting your lucky stars if you are top listed, with an election rate of 87.5%. There was a streak of 7 straight electing of top listed candidates that got elected. That rate is over 33 points higher than the mathematical odds of 54.4%, with the caveat that pure mathematical chance does not control for other factors. If you are top listed on the ballot, what are the odds of being the highest or second highest vote getter? 50% of the time. How about being listed on the bottom of the ballot? Bottom listed candidates are indeed faced with an uphill climb with an election rate of just 37.5%, nearly 20 points below the expected election rate. That should drive home the point that ballot ordering for candidates does indeed have statistical significance. The takeaway point that I would like to leave all of you with tonight is a truly randomized ballot ordering of candidates would even the playing field. That point is not made lightly. More than half, and I repeat, more than half of the registered voters here in Portsmouth are unaffiliated. Thank you, and I am happy to answer any questions you may have. I promise to remain as brief as possible with any answers, as a lot of folks in this room have a long week ahead of them with the upcoming budget review.
Thank you, Ted. Any questions, Mr.
I
Gleason?
just have one question. Would you work for the Navy in some fashion, right?
Mhm.
Do you suspect we would have candidates that would run that are federal employees, including yourself?
So I know true politicians never speak in hypothetical, but yes, I would have run in previous election. Then I discovered that the Hatch Act prevented me from running. We once had a school committee chair. She needed to step down from that position in 2012 because she shifted from a contracted position to a government position. She had the same office, same responsibilities, it's just she shifted from a contractor to a government employee, so we lost her. I do feel like the government employees are told, especially if you work for the submarine community, to keep a very low profile. And that's just for national security purposes. I do think it would embolden people to think that they could serve. And that's why there's a lot of us here, you just don't really see us.
Thank you very much.
Ms. Mayor? Yes.
Ted, you and I agree on most points. Is probably we're the first one in the many years we've known each other, we don't agree. And would you say that the information you gathered creates correlation or causation?
You know, this is like one of those things, I try to get as many data points as I could. I think it is statistically significant enough to come in front of you and say that if you're top listed on the ballot, you're probably going to get elected, and you're, you know, on average, 15% of the time, you should be the highest vote getter, but the top listed people are the top vote getter, maybe 35% more than the average, right? So there, I do feel like if you run as an independent, you don't get a fair shake. And unfortunately, there are voters that just pick the top and then they start working their way down. I don't necessarily know if I answered your question to your satisfaction. I'm just trying to I try to take 48 data points. It's not, 100, but I start to go back 20 years. You're starting to run into a country with different 20 years ago. So I try to do the best I can and keep the data as broad as I could.
And I appreciate that, but when looking at the data set, it definitely doesn't take into consideration one, local trends, what's happening in those communities, ballot initiatives that are happening. Also looking at your average between Portsmouth, which is partisan in all your election base, and a town like Tiverton, which is nonpartisan. The difference is 0.07, which would be statistically insignificant because there's no such thing as 0.07 of an individual. And so that's why I appreciate that you got this information, but it still doesn't answer the question as to what would and why this shift in election law, or at least election ordinance in this town, is necessary, other than a feel-good initiative that may or may not yield more candidates on the ballot.
So I just wanted to point out that when we had an unopposed slate of single party that wasn't partisan election, would you have so Tiverton has the most number of average candidates, then Portsmouth, then nonpartisan Newport, then nonpartisan Middletown. So, I mean, I think there is enough of a shift. I do think the biggest gain that you can get is independent candidates no longer being bottom listed. Unfortunately, that is a statistical disadvantage. I mean, obviously, you and I can debate on the quality of that candidate. I mean, sometimes those candidates are not the best. But I do think that there is enough data here that you could say that, especially when Newport's mayor was a government employee, there is enough there, and I do think it would create enough of a narrative that federal employees could be more involved. That being said, I cannot speak to what the Office of Special Counsel will do or rule, or if it'll even exist in 2 years. But that is a consideration because federal employees, if the candidate is in a race that there is an endorsement by a political committee, that could raise questions about whether that race was truly nonpartisan. In the age of Twitter, I mean, any political party could give a shout out to a certain candidate. I mean, my hope in all of this is that a political party could very well endorse on a nonpartisan slate, unaffiliated voters, or even candidates from another party, because you want the best 7 for Portsmouth. And that really is, I mean, I don't want to say it's feel good, but I mean, that would be pretty awesome.
No, and
Yeah.
I appreciate where you're
Yeah.
coming from, and
Yeah.
that 100%. I'll disagree with you, but doesn't mean we're
Of course.
disagreeable. So I appreciate the fact that you even brought this information from us.
Thank you, Ted. Any other questions? Eric?
Thanks for coming in, Ted, tonight. You were on the last charter review committee or a part of watching it work?
So I was on the original 2020 Charter Review Committee due to family responsibilities and the meeting being on a Thursday evening. It was just unrealistic for me to continue to serve. So as a public attendee, I did put forth a nonpartisan question and advocated for it quite strongly. At that meeting in February 2020, the Charter Review Commission did indeed vote in favor of a nonpartisan town council and a nonpartisan school committee election. That being said, the Charter Review Committee reserves the right to have a motion of reconsideration. So at their next meeting, they flipped the vote to not recommend nonpartisan town council election, but they did recommend nonpartisan school committee election. I followed it very closely, and some of the materials that have been presented here were written by me. So a lot of that was taken from the Charter Review Commission. And I would want to point out, there has been a narrative that changing the charter requires 8 to 10 years. But analyzing this, I think this is the biggest thing I uncovered. In the last 8 elections, four of them or half of them had charter questions on them. So every other election does have a charter question. So you would just be keeping pace if you actually had this question on the next election.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Ms. Mike?
Hi, thank you for coming in. I appreciate it. I greatly would love to hear the voice of the military families in the school committee, and trying to build that community is very important, and they're an integral part of our society. Am I hearing you correct, though, that you think that there might still be concerns of one of the parents stepping up, even if it is nonpartisan? Are there still some inhibitors?
So military, if you were enlisted in the military, you can run in a nonpartisan question. That has been settled. That was run in the Portsmouth Times. I verified that. That is fact. The Office of Special Counsel put out a memo stating that if a partisan political committee endorsed a candidate, that could potentially swing the race to be considered nonpartisan, and a federal employee would have to withdraw. So again, a military active duty enlisted member can run for town council or run in a nonpartisan local election. So for example, the town council or the school committee here was nonpartisan, an active duty military enlisted member could run. Would they? I can't speculate. I mean, sometimes they roll in for only 3 years. It would have to coincide, but I do think they're missing a big gap here. And with the couple of Coast Guard cutters coming into the community, I mean, I'm hearing crazy numbers for the additional demand on housing.
Well, I don't know if we need the Coast Guard cutter guns.
Yeah. Yeah, but there is a strong chance that, I mean, I don't want to speak I don't have the number in front of me, but there will be a significant impact when they relocate to Naval Station Newport.
Sure. I guess it was more the concern of your question, your statement about being in the submarine business, that there would still be some concerns.
The stuff being, so you would have to be a very highly, I'm just choosing my words carefully. Just the fact that you work for the submarine community, you are still considered a civilian federal employee, so that wouldn't change your standing or your status in this particular question.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your help on this.
Any other questions, Ted? Thank you very much for your insight.
Oh,
We
you're welcome.
appreciate it. Next up, we have a policy reminder / clarification, ensuring all backup materials for agendas are submitted 48 hours ahead of time. Ms. Patton, you question?
Yeah, so I mean, I just put this on there just so that we're all, any backup that is submitted, is submitted prior to the meetings, 48 hours. That way, when we come to a meeting, we're not handed information and we don't have time to review it and look at it, and everyone as well. When the agenda is posted, it's out there for everybody to see.
So the standard policy is everything should be in backup and requested agenda items by noon on Tuesday. We would like them in a little bit earlier if we can all adhere to that, because the clerk's office is shorthanded right now with the absence of the town clerk. So if we can get agenda items in earlier, that would be greatly appreciated. But yes, everything should be in before noon on Tuesday. And that allows them to get it out by 4 o'clock on Wednesday.
That also, I'm talking about like meetings as well. So when people come in on Monday at the meeting, it's already been submitted and we're not.
Agreed.
Okay.
Mr. Reese?
Yeah.
No, one of the things that happened, I'll just cite some examples. When we had the ordinance for the sound for South Coast Wind, they wanted a variance.
Yes.
We were handed the binder when we were walking out into the auditorium where he was going to present what was in the binder, which was this thick. There's no way you can go through something like that. We've had examples where we come into executive session. We're handed a drawing or something that we've never seen before, and we're expected to review it and discuss it. I can't give you an honest answer on something if I haven't had a chance to review it. That's what we're talking about, not getting in agenda items and things like that. It's when we receive the backup, if it's something that should be there. Otherwise, it shouldn't be on the agenda, or we'll just table it.
That's fine.
So do,
No, I mean, the rules are the rules. I mean, they still have been the rules.
well,
South Coast was a separate entity that brought their own backup.
twice in
the-
executive session, we've been given stuff when we came in. I mean, and then the meeting starts immediately and there's no time to review anything. It's not, so I think management should be adhering to this. That's the problem we were having. It wasn't it wasn't the average person. It was where it was
Okay,
coming from.
South Coast was one.
Right, but
I'll
also,
take responsibility for the other one, but there was no,
Well-
yeah.
my other, there was, previous meetings, I know Jackie came to speak and handed us materials. Mr. Katzman, same thing.
We can't,
just-
I can't make somebody from the general public
Mhm.
give us stuff ahead of time.
If they put it
If
on
the-
the agenda.
If they put it on the agenda, they should.
Right. That's
Mr.
what I'm
Castman
saying.
didn't put it on the agenda. He just came to speak on behalf of an agenda item.
Yeah, I'm
I
talking,
can't force them to give us stuff ahead of time.
yeah, no, I'm talking about agenda stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. On to new business number 4, presentation and a submission for review for the town administrator's proposed fiscal year budget and specifically to review the budget for revenues. Mr. Rayner.
Good evening again, Mr. President. Just wait for Kathy to get the slide presentation up. Great. So welcome. This presentation will outline the town's proposed FY '26 budget, FY being fiscal year. We are proposing a balanced $77.2 million general fund budget. The property tax rate increases modestly by 1.49%, and we remain more than $1 million under the statutory tax cap. We prioritize fiscal responsibility, service continuity, and long-term planning. If you can just stay on that slide, please. So as I said, the proposed fiscal year '26 general fund budget is $77.2 million, representing a 3.76% increase over last year. The proposed tax rate is $13.37.8 per $1,000 in net assessed value, or an assessed value, which is a 1.49% increase. And our total levy increase, as I stated, remains well under the state cap. This budget supports our schools, invests in public safety and infrastructure, and remains balanced and strategic. You can go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So here's our schedule moving forward. Please note the key dates, especially the public hearing on June 11th and final adoption scheduled for June 30th. Next slide, please. So fiscal year '26 budget drivers. We discussed this in January. Personnel remains our largest driver, reflecting wage agreements, benefits, and efforts to attract and retain staff. We are proposing over $650,000 in targeted capital investments, along with upgrades in public safety and continued support for our schools and roads. Debt service comprises just under 4% of the total budget. Next slide, please. Our debt service has increased this year primarily due to the new school bond. Still, it represents only 3.71% of the total budget. That's a manageable portion that reflects our commitment to long-term infrastructure. Next slide, please. So looking ahead, our debt service obligations begin to decline after fiscal year '26. This gives us flexibility to plan future investments while maintaining financial stability. Next slide, please. When compared statewide, Portsmouth's current tax rate burden falls below the midpoint while offering full municipal services. Next slide, please. With respect to median household income, Portsmouth ranks among the state's higher income tax bracket communities. This affects our ability to pay, but also informs expectations for service of quality of service. Next slide, please. We are also in the top 10 in household income, reflecting our community's strong economic position. Next slide, please. With regard to median family income, our bracket is even higher. Again, this context matters as we weigh service levels and taxation. Next slide, please. We are among the top 5 in median family income, a sign of economic health and fiscal capacity. Next slide, please. This chart shows that Portsmouth's current residential tax rate is below the median and remains competitive among all Rhode Island municipalities. Next slide, please. Even when compared only with other full-service municipalities, that is, those municipalities with their own fire, police, public works, and school district, Portsmouth maintains a lower than average residential rate. Next slide, please. So with respect to the proposed budget, only 2.94% of the budget is discretionary. This highlights how much of our spending is committed to essential services and obligations. Next slide, please. This slide shows where our revenue comes from. The majority of our revenue, over 80%, comes from property taxes. This reality underscores the importance of a stable, well-managed levy. Next slide, please. Here's another view of the same data. Property taxes fund the majority of town operations. Next slide, please. Compared to the Rhode Island average, Portsmouth receives less state aid and relies more on property taxes to fund local services. Next slide, please. This chart shows how expenditures break down by function, with the biggest shares going to the schools and public safety being fire and police. Next slide, please. This slide represents our budget priorities visually. Education and public safety make up nearly 80% of the budget. That's consistent with our priorities and the services residents count on the most. Next slide, please. This slide highlights Portsmouth's commitment to its schools, employees, and fiscal health compared to Rhode Island averages. Thank you. So with regard to the tax rate metrics that we have to consider, these are the key levers that shape our tax rate. Proposed expenditures, revenue expectations, net asset value growth, legislation policy, and anticipated collection rates all factor into our rate setting. Next slide, please. So with respect to net asset value by class, this slide compares Portsmouth and our property class breakdown to the state average. We are far more resident heavy. That creates funding stability, but it also severely limits commercial tax diversification. Thank you. With regard to our tax cap, again, our proposed tax levy increase is 2.39%. It gives us a little more than $1 million in margin under the 4% state cap. Next slide, please. This slide summarizes our proposed collection rates and our estimated levy by class. As you can see, the majority of the levy, again, over 89%, comes from residential real estate, with commercial and tangible property making up the rest. Excellent. Thank you. So our estimated tax levy for fiscal year 26 totals just over $65.7 million, with residential properties being the primary source of tax revenue, or 89.53%. Again, here, same data visually, 89% of the tax rate, or the tax levy rather, is derived from residential properties. Commercial and tangible properties contribute about 11%. Next slide, please. So the property tax rate comparison, we are proposing a modest 1.49% increase in the residential and commercial tax rates. The tangible rate remains unchanged in accordance with current statute. Next slide, please. So where do your tax dollars go? Here's how your tax dollar is allocated: schools, public safety, roads, and core government functions. Next slide. Here's the allegation of your real estate tax levy by category. Most of your real estate tax dollars support direct services. These include education, safety, and critical infrastructure. And visually, this slide further breaks down the residential tax levy, reinforcing that most of it goes to fund education and essential community services like police and fire. Next slide, please. Despite a 1.49% increase in the proposed tax rate, we remain below the 2.49% March inflation rate. Core inflation is even higher at 2.8%. Next slide. So relative to cumulative inflation, over time, Portsmouth has kept our tax rate growth below the cumulative impact of inflation, reflecting long-term restraint. To put the tax rate growth in perspective, cumulative inflation over the last 20 years is 63.7%. Adjusted for inflation, that means that the real estate tax rate growth has been 15% over that same period. Next slide, please. With regard to our capital improvement plan, here's a breakdown of the capital improvement plan by functional area. Most of it obviously going to infrastructure needs. Next slide, please. This slide shows the CIP items by department. This year's $655,860 in capital improvement plan addresses critical needs, including fire and EMS equipment, DPW vehicles, technology upgrades, and park improvements. We're continuing to invest in our infrastructure responsibly. Next slide. Thank you. With regard to our road conditions remain solid, but long-term quality depends on sustained investment. Our current road surface rating is 73.24, which puts us in the good category. Total road mileage, town roads in Portsmouth is almost 100 miles. Fiscal year 26 road allocation is projected to be $1.3 million. Of that, $1.17 million is proposed in the general fund. And if we spend that, if that is approved, we will get a state grant from the roadworks program of $184,000, which means that we will put $1.354 million into road paving, which will further increase our road rating to likely above 74 next year. And then, although not part of the general fund, we're launching our curbside waste collection program this year. As an enterprise fund, this won't affect the tax levy, but it will offer residents another option for waste management. So the budget takeaways, to summarize, we're going to present to you a balanced budget that meets the moment. It responds to inflation and staffing pressures, launches a new service, and invests in what matters, all while staying well below the state tax cap. So that concludes the brief. And Mr. President, if it's your pleasure, we'll jump into the revenues.
Well, if any questions from the council on the general overview? Ms. Blank?
I do. Can you give me an example? I looked it up of a tangible property. It says cars, furniture. How does that apply here in Portsmouth?
Sure. If, let's say I'm a restaurant.
You're a restaurant.
Yeah, I'm a restaurant owner, and in my restaurant, I have equipment that's tangible property. If I am a landscaper, some of that property that I'll have, let's say a shed where I store my property and my equipment, that'd be a tangible property.
Okay, so it's for, in general, commercial properties, physical.
Home businesses, if you have a home
businesses.
business office, you know, the desks, the equipment, the computer equipment may all be tangible property.
So the town collects taxes on that? Am I understanding correctly?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Now,
Thank
Matt, he's here, he'll correct me if I'm wrong, but $50,000 is not taxed. First $50,000, you're credited, you don't pay tax on it.
I think it went to 75.
And maybe
Go to
up there.
75, Matt, now it's still 50? Okay.
And then, two comments. In the future, the first time you use an acronym, on any of the presentations, can we just put in what that acronym stands for?
Sure, were any specific that,
No,
Co-
as you
co-
went through, you stated them.
Okay.
I'd just like to have them written down for the acronyms. And just the first time they show up, because there was a few that I could figure out, and there was a few I just wasn't able to, before you had spoke. And then can we also have page numbers? So, because I had a few questions on certain ones to say like on page 3, just a. Thank you very much. I appreciate you putting this together and, the presentation.
Mr. Gleason.
Just because you had the number on the, already written out, what was your proposed paving budget, please?
yeah, the total, well, the proposed paging budget in the general fund is $1,170,000. The proposed or the anticipated state grant, roadworks grant, is $184,211. So that means that we would have a road paving budget, if this budget is approved, next year of $1,354,211.
Thank you.
So if the number approved, the 1,170,000 is less than that, the roadworks take would be a less percentage of that number. We wouldn't get the 184, we would get 150 per se, or
I
something
don't
like that.
recall the algorithm,
But
I believe that there's some leeway, but Brian can walk us through.
And if, Mr. Woodhead, if you don't mind, can you just refer to the 2 projects that were done last year with the roadworks money? So that people understand the impact that the roadworks money made.
So last year's roadworks money was a lot more. That was their first rollout. So we did all our paving, all our crack sealing, our chip sealing and all like that. That we came up with $558,000 from the state last year. This year, we had the $1,170,000. It's 33% match fund. Part of the paving program too is Prudence Island. Everyone forgets about Prudence Island. We have design work for Prudence Island for Broadway that the council agreed to. That was part of the 10-year plan for Prudence Island. So that's part of that $1,170,000. But that is not in part of the reimbursement from the state. We're doing Headley Street, Long Meadow, South, North, and Pleasant, and then we're also doing Jesse Ferrera and Brown Terrace, sorry.
And are you aware, and I think I asked Mr. Rayner to tell you this, that gravel roads are part of the state funding program too. So if you have gravel roads on Prudence Island that need repair, we can
Correct,
apply for state funding for that as well.
right.
Okay,
But we're already maxed out because they only
that's fine.
allow so much.
Yep, oh, agreed. Any other questions on the overview? If not, we'll dive into the revenue portion of the budget. Mr. DiPiola.
Mike DePill, 1074 East Main Road. You said that you're doing the paving on Long Meadow? Is there any way we can take into account the drainage problem in front of my house down there? Because it's constantly overflowing, whether it's a drain issue, blockage, maybe put a bigger berm, do something. Thank you.
Mr. Casson, question on the overview?
Yeah. So I never picked up the Paul Kesson, 3241 East Main Road. I never picked up the agenda in the backup. What I remember just seeing was 660,000 in CBI going to be spent.
655 this year.
All right, so I'm off a couple
Yeah,
but
yes.
digits, but it's 600, 700K. What's that against the total value of buildings and properties in the town of Portsmouth?
It's minimal.
So I'm not sitting on the council, but is there a way that we can fund other efforts to maintain buildings that we have?
We do in our department budgets. There is a building maintenance funds, there's repair funds. But overall, it's taking quite a bit of time just to build up the capital improvement plan to this level.
And also remember that that's just for town buildings. The school buildings have a separate fund. And
I understand, and they're doing a good job. They just passed their roof program.
And
They seem to be looking at it more than we have on the town side, in my opinion, because since we've done away with the Glen Manor Committee, there was, and don't hold me to the number, but in 2017, I thought we were spending 150,000 against maintenance on that building. And I don't see that, or didn't see this in this overview, but haven't dug into the budget. And there are buildings, including the barns, and we're doing another cupola, I guess, from what I hear. But there's definitely buildings that we should make sure aren't falling down.
Agreed.
And that happened with one of the pole barns where we used to store all of the beach stuff. We lost a nice building. And I understand it's all about the money, but when we're driven by contracts on labor, I'm just wondering if there's another way to find money to maintain within this budget, money to maintain the buildings. Everybody's spending it on their house, and we should be doing the same thing in town. I have one more question, but getting old, I'll have to come back to you.
Okay. That's okay. We all do that. Why did I come in the kitchen again? All right, Mr. Rayner, let's review revenues.
All right, thanks. If Kathy, if you can pull up the budget, let's go to page 8. Okay, so as I've just stated in the brief, based on projected revenue, I'm proposing general fund expenditures of $77,199,531 for fiscal year 26, which represents a 3.756% increase in the budget over last year. The anticipated residential and commercial property tax rate is $13.37.8 per 1,000 in assessed value, which is 39.2 cents or 1.492% increase over last year. This proposal again keeps us comfortably under the state 4% levy cap by $1,033,022 or 1.608 percentage points below the statutory maximum. This reflects our continued commitment to responsible budgeting and tax restraint. So if we can go to the revenue summary on page 9. You can follow the bottom line numbers here on page 9, or you can track along with me starting on page 14. We can go to page 14.
Absolutely. If you have a question, yes.
Didn't know where to stop you. I got a question on 9. And this was something that you had answered, but I had a question on it. And it was, why is Prudence transfer station revenue down 66%? And you wrote, in last year's budget, the annual sticker sales for Prudence Island Transfer Station were included in the revenue line. Revenue from the sale of annual stickers should actually be applied to the Portsmouth Transfer Station. And if that's the case, I want to know why our transfer station doesn't get $21,000 a year to make up for this shortfall, because not getting that last year increased our sticker cost last year. So it should be being transferred to our transfer station enterprise.
There will have to be a reallocation, and that'll reflect in the
Well,
next.
I just didn't see it here, and I didn't see it anywhere
It's
else.
not here. It'll be reflected in the next sticker price.
All right, it just should be somewhere in the numbers here, saying where it went. That wasn't part of your answer. That's what you didn't say that when you answered me. So that's why I'm asking. So now you're telling me that it is going to go in.
It will have to. That revenue was received, right, but it was applied to the Prudence Island Transfer Station.
Incorrectly, yes, I understand.
Correct. And so that money received will have to be reallocated to the Headley Street Enterprise Fund, which will reflect in the next sticker price, which will be approved next November or December.
And
No,
will I see that
later.
as a line item in there?
Or I'm sorry, next
March,
March.
February,
yeah.
March, yeah.
Yeah. still on the
Will
old
I see that
system.
as a line item in there?
You'll see, yeah, when.
I
the
mean, that
sticker-
it's, that's where it's from, so that I have a way of tracking it.
Yeah, when the sticker price budget is presented to you, you'll see that transfer in
Okay.
to the enterprise, and it'll also be reflected in the audit.
All right, but it wasn't done this year.
No, we found out about it after everything was done.
Where'd it go?
Pardon?
Where did it go? If it didn't go there, it went somewhere. Where did that money go?
It's sitting in the general fund right now.
Oh. So if we need some money out of the transfer station, we know where it is. Okay. All right, thanks.
Ms. McDowell?
Just to follow up on that, so over the years then, it hasn't been, or,
No, it was a one-time thing that
One
happened
time.
last year.
okay, thanks.
Follow on.
Okay, so we left off on page 14. Okay. The revenue summary, you found that on page 9. Here, on page 14, the tax levy details are listed. On pages 14 and 15, you can see how the certification of the 2024 tax roll in each tax category, the anticipated tax rate per $1,000 in assessed value, and the estimated collection rate are factored into the computation of the projected tax revenues. The estimated collection rate of 97.75% is an increase from last year's anticipated collection rate of 97.375%. This improvement is based on actual recent collection performance. For example, the 5-year median has been 97.96%. The 3-year median has been 98.6069%. So the tax assessor and collector feels confident in the 97.75% collection rate. So if we go to tax revenue on page 16, so after subtracting uncollectible allowances and adding prorated taxes, pilots, which are payment in lieu of taxes, and prior year collections, we project a total net tax revenue of $65,481,448, or a 2.5% increase over fiscal year 25. We go to state aid, which is on page 18. Here we're seeing a significant boost in housing aid reimbursement related to the school bond. So that housing aid reimbursement this next fiscal year is projected to be $1,038,745.
Excuse me. I just got a quick question there. I had asked this question as part of my input from you before. And you gave me this state aid and how much the school bond service debt reimbursement is. And it was under the state housing aid. And there was a note that came back from Christopher Delario. And it says, this is what you included, it is the answer. And it says, hi, Rich, for planning purposes, you should budget to receive $1,038,745 in housing aid. He says, however, this is a preliminary number and I will provide you with a more precise estimate later in the budgeting season, which is now. What number did you get? And can
The
you
state
provide that to
budgeting
the
season
council?
will go all the way till the end of June. So we don't have a final number yet. This is the number that we have to plan with.
Okay, all right.
The state budget could be finalized as late as June 29th.
Okay,
So unfortunately,
okay.
ex-
It just, and
expected
here
late
it
this
was,
year.
and so he meant his
Yeah.
budgeting
yeah,
season and not our
especially with
budgeting season.
the loss of the
Right.
speaker of the
No, that's what I'm saying.
Senate
So
president,
what he meant was
No.
his budgeting season, not ours.
correct? No, not his,
I got it.
theirs.
Theirs, not his.
Yeah,
Sure, he doesn't have that kind of budget.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
unfortunately.
Mr. Rayner, if you don't mind, Mr. President, if you don't mind me asking, I'm assuming in another, hopefully in the next couple of days, we would see updated numbers, because I know the state put out new numbers that although it's a $9,000 variation, that's coming to schools, at least knowing that we're gonna have those updated numbers.
I saw the same note.
Given it was
Again-
very funky and not done correctly, but
We have no idea if that's going to be the final number yet or
Okay.
not.
And then, as you know, there's another half a dozen
Oh.
bills up there that could be, at least a half a dozen bills that could be changing the formulation calculation for schools and,
better than anyone else's days.
yeah, I know. So. Continue, Mr. Rayner.
Okay, so that was page 18. Still on page 18, just below, we'll get into the department revenues.
Yep.
Did I miss one?
No.
We just did state aid.
No, I just want to go through the town clerk's budget, specifically looking at the real estate transfer tax. I know that's been changed, but the state also has a bill to take more of that real estate transfer tax and give it to the state as a higher percentage, so that we sell properties in our town. The town clerk does all the work, and the state takes a bigger chunk of the money to go into the general fund of the state. It's a little bit more complicated than that, but simplistically, that's what they're doing.
Yeah, over a certain level sale price, we would receive less revenue, the state would receive more revenue. That bill is not passed yet. So
Yet.
again, we don't know.
Right.
Okay, so with respect, still on the town clerk's department revenues on page 18, real estate transfer fee revenues are still high. Based on 10-year averages in the current trend, we're projecting $550,000 in real estate transfer fees and $842,000 in total clerk revenue, a 16.14% increase over fiscal year 25.
Any other questions on town clerk revenues? Okay, Mr. Rayner?
So if we go to page 19, and on that page, you'll see interest income is projected at $225,000. That's a 43.61% increase. This reflects actual returns in fiscal year 25 and continued high deposit rates. Excuse me. We're also projecting conservative but realistic growth in miscellaneous revenues. Overall, we project total finance revenue at $231,000, which is a 42.35% increase over fiscal year 25.
Any questions, council? Ms. McCallum? No? Yes?
Yeah, I just, in regard to that.
Microphone. That's okay.
In regard to that, so when I look at it, with the 231,000, should we be more realistic, in terms of that, given what we've seen past performance? Because anytime we're not being more realistic, doesn't it affect the tax levy? Either, in some cases, if we're talking about revenues plus or minus or expenditures. So I was just feeling that, in 2024, there's a big discrepancy on what we predicted and what we got. On 2025. With 3 months left, there's still a big discrepancy in what we got and what we predicted. And I think I just heard you say that we're projecting a decent year this year too. So my feeling is we should be more realistic in that figure instead of the 231 and something higher than that. 350.
Oh, you'd be looking at just specifically at the 225. That's the interest income.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
And just,
Interest income.
correct, yes, just
yeah,
interest income.
Yeah.
Which obviously would be more than 231, but just the interest income is 225.
Mm.
And one of the factors that has weighed in on that, we've had a good chunk of money sitting there waiting to pay bills for the school bond. It's been in our bank account gaining that interest. As we pay off those bonds, that number will go down. So once we use up that money. But
We just had the 800.
if you would like to change that number, we could ask the finance department to dig into those a little bit more and say.
I'd also like to see that looked at because it's, the approved amount and the actual amounts are very great. And then the last one in 2025, you approved 156. And in 6 months, we're already at we're already at 288. And then the next year, we got 288 in 6 months, and then for the whole year, they're predicting 225. I mean, it's less. I would think you'd be up in the 400 or 500K range for that.
We just caution, we just need to be careful. We just had over an $800,000 outlay for the school bond. So obviously, we look at this with a very jaundiced eye. We try to be very conservative. 3 years ago, we got chastised because we were being a little too optimistic.
So it's a number that can be looked at. I would caution a bigger number like 400 or 500. There are other factors in there. We have budgeted in revenues for police officers that we're not using. You have the school bond, which is a big one. So it can be looked at and bumped up.
And you're saying it would go out before we get any interest in it, which is,
Well, the school bond will be completely exhausted by the start of school next year. So that there's $2 million sitting there right now, and that'll be gone starting September 1st-ish for the most part. Any other questions from council? Ms. Figel?
I would love it if we could just look at it and a little bit more closely, and if we can do something that's a little bit more realistic. Again, those kinds of things are hard to predict. However, you have past history that's how I'm sure you develop budgets. So just if you could look at it, that'd be great. Thanks.
Mr. Green, you have a question?
A comment first. I love that the council is beating me to some of these things for the first time in a long time. Appreciate that. I also saw this as a major problem. I would just to focus it a little bit. Our audit said we had $12.1 million in our general fund. The T-bills today are at 4.1%. That's $500,000 right there. I don't think $500,000 would be out of range for this. We've beaten that the last 2 years. And the 2.25 is not even where we were before the school bond money hit. So I fully support what you're saying, and I love the fact that you got it before I did. Thanks.
Mr. Kessin, you remember what you were going to ask?
I did.
All right.
Paul Kessin, 3241 East Main Road. It may be too early to ask this question, but what is the revenue generated from the new houses coming online?
You find that in a number of places. I don't have a specific number. We haven't broken it out that way. But you find that in the real estate transaction fees, and you also find that in building inspection fees.
No, I want to know what the revenue and taxes is coming in, not in real estate fees. New properties coming online, what is that generating for a revenue against this budget? Against,
done that analysis.
against my house that my family's owned for over 100 years.
We would have to do an analysis to determine that number.
You have to do that because that's not included in the tax rate when you calculate the 2.39, right? Because they're paying it for the first time. The increase is on what I paid over last year. So you must already know that number. Somebody does, maybe Matt.
I'm
But it
sure
might be
the
too
tax
early
assessor
'cause he
would
hasn't-
Take a look at this, but yeah, absolutely. We could take a look at the increase in the net asset values from last year to this year and then determine how much of that is attributed to new growth.
What I was, the question I'm asking, I'm going to ask it for the third time because
I
I
understand.
want
the first-
everybody to understand it. What is this year's home bringing online? They weren't taxed last year. How much revenue is coming in from new properties this year?
you mind going to the microphone? Thank you.
So if I do the assessed value times 13 point,
Right. That's,
okay,
that's what you get.
thank you very much.
Matt, do you have a hard number that we're bringing on? For lack of a better term, there are $30 million worth of property that went online. If you could look at it and bring it tomorrow night, that would be fine. Mr. Rayner, on to Mr. McDowell.
Let me just finish my note here.
I have a question just for clarification. Under finance miscellaneous, what is under that?
So one of the larger contributors on that is the forfeited 401k, so 401a. So what ends up happening is if an employee does not stay on board for 5 years, they're not fully vested, so the town is able to take back the portion that was paid.
Thanks.
Okay, so at the bottom of that page, we have the tax collector revenue. We're projecting this year's tax collector revenue to be $260,500. It's essentially level funded with FY '25.
Any questions on tax collector revenue? Next up, we have the building official and planning revenues.
A building official, ongoing construction and renovation activity remains stable, and we're projecting level funding there, so revenue of $737,000, same as last year. Okay. Planning, just below that on page 20, we project the level of revenue again to remain near $43,500 for the next FY, so level funding that revenue.
Do you want to explain what the $112,000 is for this year, the miscellaneous income? Unless, was it a grant?
No, so that is road cuts for driveways or telenetworks like Cox for the burial of fiber
Okay.
optic lines.
Okay. All right, so all of the new fiber optics that Cox has put in over the past year and a half. Thank you. Any other questions on building official or planning? Revenue for police.
Okay, on page 21, we're expecting modest growth in parking and traffic fines. So that will yield a projected total of $208,200, up 5.74% from fiscal year '25. Same with Harbor Master. There'll be we expect a small increase in mooring fines, which will bring this total up to $117,735.
Any questions on the revenue for police and or harbor master? The biggest driver in the police line is the details, which is just passed through. It could be a little bit bigger because of the West Main Road projects, but we'll see. Depends if our police want to take on those details. Ms. McDowell?
Yeah, could I just go back to, I gotta absorb some of this stuff, and I missed my question under revenue for planning. So for the 2026, we're already at 118,532 as of what Kayla's reported today. And we're proposing 35. Is that another area that,
No,
no?
that was what
okay,
she just
okay.
explained is the
Okay.
Cox is pretty much done pulling the fiber optics. So they were doing.
So
the crunch
that
for
is the,
Unless there's another utility that's going to start doing a lot of work. But I'm pretty sure they're down at the south end of town now. They're pretty much done with I'm getting a nod for Brian. That's what that answer would come from.
okay, great.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you. Fire department.
Okay, if we go
revenues.
to page 22. So under fire revenues, you'll see that ambulance revenue in the general fund drops by $51,000, so a 27.55% decrease. This reflects a shift to the Public Safety Capital Fund, which is now funded directly through ambulance collections. If you'll recall, some of you, a number of years ago, we kickstarted that with American Rescue Plan funds with the idea that this would be self-sustaining through ambulance revenue and that we would wean the general fund off of the general ambulance revenue. So the $15,000 that is lost in this revenue is also removed from, you'll see tomorrow night, from the fire expenditure. So there's no effect on the general fund. That just will be managed through the Public Safety Capital Improvement Plan.
Do you want to just, should we expound on that a little bit? Because there are, well, 5 counselors that weren't here when we did that.
So we established a Public Safety Capital Plan. So you'll notice in the Capital Improvement Plan, you don't see the large apparatus and 2 police cars in the Capital Improvement Plan anymore. That is funded through a special account, the Public Safety Capital Fund, which is listed in the special revenue funds or restricted funds towards the end of the budget. That saves the general fund from having to fund those capital improvements. But the idea is that once kickstarted with the American Rescue Plan money, which came from COVID, that Public Safety Capital Improvement Plan would become self-sustaining. So we could do long-term planning. For instance, just to order a fire truck now, by the time you order it, you plan it, it gets approved, it gets delivered, 3 or 4 years can go by. And there's a huge capital outlay for an expenditure like that. So this gives us a little bit more planning horizon to take care of those big purchases without an impact on the general fund.
Everybody good on that? Good.
So therefore, we project fire revenue to decrease 27.55% with resulting projected revenue to be $134,094 in the next fiscal year. And again, that drop in revenue doesn't really affect the general fund because we've also removed that $51,000 expenditure from the fire budget. Okay, the Prudence Island Transfer Station, as Councilor Reese brought up earlier, the revenue appears to drop by 66.02% to $11,410. But this is a result of correcting a prior misallocation. Only the revenue from the sale of weekly and monthly passes should be applied to the sticker sales line in the Prudence Island Transfer Station revenue budget. Annual sticker sales are to be recorded in the Portsmouth Transfer Station budget.
And this is also less because it's a 12-month sticker as opposed to an 18-month sticker that we had in the past 18 months.
So we've corrected it, and this is why it appears revenues are down. So the Prudence Island Transfer Station revenue is projected to be $330,105. I'm sorry, I read recreation at $11,410.
Can you also explain what the miscellaneous services are over there? Because that has a decrease too.
I don't have the breakout here, Brian, could you?
So the miscellaneous services for Prudence Island is for mattresses, box springs, refrigerators and stuff like that that we charge services for. It went down a little bit because the Rhode Island Mattress Council says that not so much for Prudence, but for Portsmouth, that you can, as long as we don't have to charge people on Portsmouth, as long as the mattress is recyclable in Portsmouth. So that was for Prudence, is the refrigerators and mattresses.
Any other questions on fire or Prudence? No, we'll move on to recreation and rental revenue and other.
Okay, so recreation, on page 23. We've worked on improving the forecasting using updated participation and program revenue figures. So the FY 26 recreation revenue is budgeted $330,105 for a 27.41% increase. This reflects steady camp participation, expanded offerings, and a better estimation of rental programming.
Any questions on recreation revenue.
I just have a
Mr.
quick
Gleason.
question on the money spent or the money brought in from the Brown House through 12/31/24 is only $6,000. Is all the money happening this spring to get to the,
Yeah, I think there's still an empty unit there that we haven't been able to rent. We're hopeful. And this only reflects rents received from July up to December. So there's still a half year to come. And maybe some of those didn't get captured in that December figure.
it's, but it's basically for the rental?
That's for
part.
rental.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think the figure that we have up to date from March 31st is 10,056, I believe, according to what Kayla put out today. So we're, again, we're still about $10,000 difference. And we probably won't make that up between now and then, right?
It's very possible. The issue that we have is that one of the units just hasn't
Right.
been rented.
And then, just if you go back, again, this is another area that, the actual and the proposed and the actual, there's a discrepancy. In 2024 for the, Park and Recs, it fell short by $75,000. And in our present budget, with 3 months to go, we still need $115,000. And are we going to be able to make up that $115,000 in 3 months?
The short answer is no, I don't think so.
Okay.
Longer answer is that's why we're focused on this like a laser at the moment. We've gone through all the programs as accurately as we can. We've projected what we think the participation levels are going to be for what's being offered and adjusted the pricing so that we can avoid this situation in the next fiscal year.
I do think we should look at that because in the 3 previous years, we have fallen short. And I know that we have projections and things, but our history shows that we've fallen short.
Any other questions on recreation?
Okay, so just below that, you have rental, investment, and other. We anticipate increased campground reservations, tower, the telecom tower lease income, that's the tower behind the fire station, and revenue from Newport Polo and the Glen Manor House concession contract. So in total, this category is projected to increase 6.89% to $597,590.
Any questions on those items, Mr. Gleason?
Yes, Mr. Rayner, can I just trouble you for a breakout in the price, revenue received for Glen Farm versus the Polo Field? I think those are 2 separate entities in the future, if you would.
The Glen Farm is an enterprise fund. So that's
Correct.
reflected, and that money gets turned, that's
Oh, that's
later
in a
in
different,
budget.
that's a different section.
That's-
Okay.
yeah.
So you're just talking about other parts of Glen Farm
Correct.
other than Polo?
It's
Or
just Polo.
It's just
It's just
Polo. only.
labeled
Okay,
Glen Farm
that's-
Polo.
All right, that's a misnomer for me then. Thank you.
Just the polo field,
Gotcha.
not the rest of the farm.
Makes sense.
All right.
Yep.
Any other questions on the rental revenue and investment income?
You take another look at the finance revenue projection. We'll take a look at the recreation revenues. But we do have a projected revenue of $77,199,531. That is balanced with the expenditure, so any changes here would either have to be decreased in the expenditure side or would be reflected in the levy. If revenues are increased, then that would obviously, if revenues are increased, then that would potentially lower the levy, but the number would still be the same. So we are asking for provisional approval of $77,199,531 in projected fiscal year 26 revenue.
So just clarification there. So if we were to take the interest income and raise that to pick a number, $300,000, that would then take $75,000 that would be needed to be gained in tax revenue. It would bring the tax revenue number down, but it would not change the bottom line, which is balanced off with the expenditures at this point in time. If we can provisionally approve it at the end of the budget cycle, we have 2 or 3 more bites at the apple to go back and say, okay, we've cut, pick a number, $200,000 out of the expenditures. So now we can figure out how to cut, where to take that $200,000 out of the revenues, which could be lowering the tax levy number from 1338 down to 1334, roughly. All right. But in terms of going forward, we can provisionally approve things, and then when we get to the final end of the budget, if there are other changes that we need to make, we can do that here tomorrow night, Wednesday night, and then we could also do it on the 12th when we provisionally approve the entire budget. That would then go into the paper, and then on the 12th, we would have the final budget hearing, and that will be the night that we up and down vote for a budget, and then we go to the 27th. What is whatever the final meeting of June, which would be the fun night of the.
Would be the 23rd.
23rd, thank you. Which will be the final approval of said budget. So there are multiple times that you can make adjustments if you find things, or if more information comes from the State House and things get passed, we can make those adjustments, or Chris gets a harder number from RIDE as well. So is there a motion to provisionally approve the revenue line item at $77,199,531?
So moved.
Second.
Any further questions on the revenue at this point, Mrs. McDowell?
So we're provisionally approving it, but we are going to look into the finance, right?
Yes,
Um,
finance and the recreation.
and then being
recreation
more
income.
realistic in revenue predictions for recreation.
Correct, but it doesn't.
Yeah.
If we bump up
Right,
the investment income, it could potentially lower the tax levy, but it won't change that bottom line number unless we remove expenditures.
reduce the tax levy?
Well,
Sounds.
reduce the
Use it
tax
to
levy
money.
increase. It won't reduce the tax levy,
No, I mean,
unfortunately. Yeah,
increase
it would reduce the increase in the tax
Right.
levy.
Right.
So let's not get anybody too
No,
excited.
no, we won't get too excited.
Unfortunately,
Okay,
unless
all
there's manna from heaven, which would be the State House coming to us, which there isn't. All those in favor of provisionally approving the revenue line item at $77,199 and $77,199,531.
Aye.
Aye,
Aye.
opposed, motion passes 7-0. So tomorrow night, Mr. Rayner, what will we be looking at? We're looking at the school budget.
Let's start with the school. There's a presentation by the school. There is an agenda item associated with that. There's somebody that has asked to speak. After the school, we'll go to police, which will include the animal control officer, the prudent silent safety officer, the harbor master. Then fire, which will include the prudent silent volunteer fire department. And then DPW, which will include road paving, the snow budget, and the prudent silent transfer station.
And the Headley Street Transfer Station. It's an enterprise fund, but.
Well, that's an enterprise fund. We'll do that on Wednesday night.
So police, fire and DPW?
The big budget,
for
yeah,
expenditures.
and schools, and the schools,
Yeah, school.
the big one, yeah. Okay. Any other questions on that for tomorrow night? So you know what to prepare for tomorrow night. And we have correspondence. We have a motion to receive all correspondence and place that on file.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Okay, so tomorrow night, we'll be going over school, police, fire, DPW, and all the affiliated accounts underneath that, which are Harbor Master, Prudence Island Special Officer, and Animal Control, and the Prudence Island Volunteer Fire Department for that, and DPW plus the snow removal and paving budget. And then on Wednesday night, we'll hear from all other departments, which will be, I'll probably miss some, but town council, town administrator, town clerk, planning, canvassing, finance,
HR,
and then all the enterprise funds underneath that as well.
economic development,
Economic
emergency management, recreation,
Right.
planning.
And all those are this much of the budget as opposed to the ones that we're gonna do tomorrow night, which is this much of the budget, unfortunately. Right. So I have a motion to adjourn till tomorrow evening at 7 o'clock.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. See everybody tomorrow.